On today's special edition of The Claw, I'm coming to you from Dig South in Charleston, South Carolina. As I talk to Ernest Eich, he's the founder of a company that creates electric motorcycles. Do you know how much I hate these kind of microphones? But that's okay.
This very Price is Right.
I am. And you're the winner today. Hey, this is Eric Holtzclaw coming to you from Dig South in Charleston. I am talking today with Ernest Eich. He is the founder of
Shandoka electric motorcycle.
Shandoka electric motorcycles. Yeah, I knew I was going to get it wrong, so I just let you say it.
Yeah, no worries.
So tell us a little bit about what Shandoka is or what you do.
So we have the ability to take any motorcycle and retrofit it from gasoline to electric. And we do that with a structural system so that it actually makes the motorcycle stronger than it originally was. And it lets us basically take almost any motorcycle on the planet and make it clean so that it's a sustainable, ongoing transportation for people.
Nice. I've heard of a lot of people, of course, electric vehicles are all the rage, and then there's a company in Atlanta that converts like old cars, but I haven't heard about motorcycles.
Yes.
Yeah, so how did that idea come to you?
Well, a lot of people say that necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, frustration is also its father.
Okay.
Right? So I was extremely frustrated trying to adjust the carburetor on an older motorcycle for what felt like the 100th time. And at that point, I had already been in the clean fuels industry and thinking about sustainable transportation for about 10 years.
Okay.
So when I had this moment and sat back in frustration at the motorcycle, I said, wait a minute, I could just make this electric and then I don't have to try to make the engine run.
Yeah.
And that was a process that started about 10 years ago, and worked through what this would look like and how it could apply to as many motorcycles as possible, and then filed for patent protection in 2017.
Oh, wow. That's I don't know that I would have expected you to say that was where it came from. So I thought maybe, because I owned an electric car for a period of time.
Okay.
And it's very interesting. There were perceptions I had before that, it wouldn't be as fast, right? And they're really fast. Like electric cars are really fast. They don't have the gear switching you have to deal with. And when we bought it, they said all you have to do is like change the tires.
Right.
So
and that's a good example of kind of that persistence of old information, right?
Yeah.
Because when electric cars were first available, they were slower. They didn't have a lot of power. They didn't have much range. But the issue that we have is that gasoline-powered vehicles are already at the top of their technology curve.
Okay.
There's only so much more efficiency you can squeeze out of a combustion engine.
Right.
But batteries are going to continue to get better and better. And at some point, we're even going to eliminate the lithium battery and go with some other completely different chemistry. Don't even really know what that might be in the future. So to take a motorcycle existing right now and make sure that it's always going to be ready, I wanted to make sure that the battery systems in my design were also upgradable.
Nice.
So one of the keys that I think to Shandoka's success is that after you convert your motorcycle to electric once, you can always upgrade it. You can always put in the newest battery. You could always put in a better controller system. And so that lets people choose the motorcycle that's right for them now. But when they get a big Christmas bonus or they get, an inheritance or something else comes along, then they can say, okay, now I'm ready for more power.
Yeah. And motorcycles, people who buy them, it's typically not their primary mode of transportation,
That's quite true.
right? It's
at least in the United States.
A weekend thing, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
The United States is very recreational.
Right.
But part of what I saw with the early stages of developing this is that when you look around the planet, motorcycles move more people than cars do. Especially when you get into developing countries or really tightly compact living situations, right?
Yep.
And in a lot of those countries, the motorcycles are much smaller, right? So in India, if you have a 150cc engine, that's a big motorcycle.
Right.
In the United States, if you have an 800cc Harley, that's a little Harley. So there's a lot of different markets to try to solve with one idea.
Well, and that's great because I've been to India a couple times, and the pollution and all that with the number of motorcycles, this would be a way to reduce that and bring that down. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And what's really kind of scary is that one product we're developing is for Pakistan right now.
Okay.
they're still actually selling new 2-stroke engines in Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
Right? And they haven't upgraded the motorcycle frame in 50 years. It's the same motorcycle as they sold in 1970, just a little bit newer combustion engine.
Yeah.
So all of those are ready to be changed over. And one other thing that we don't really think about often in the United States is how cheap our gasoline is compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
In Europe, they're paying the equivalent of $10 to $15 a gallon.
Right.
And we get upset when it goes over $3. So
and start hoarding it.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I'm going to buy a trunk full
I'm
of
going to
garbage
leave it all in my car. Right.
Who saw that in the Southeast?
Right.
So, yeah, all of those problems that happen when people are really comfortable with an old technology have to be overcome somehow.
Yeah. So talk to me about range, some of those kind of like, is it as far as, is it better, the same? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah. Well, when you look at older gas motorcycles, a lot of them barely had a 100-mile range anyway.
Okay.
The tank was so small and the engine wasn't that efficient.
Right.
So a converted version of a 1980s motorcycle, I can match that range on a charge.
Okay.
One of the limiting factors is how quickly you can recharge.
Okay.
And that's something that's going to get better over time.
Yeah.
To where, when you can recharge quickly, you won't worry about is the range too short, because you just shop for a little while, recharge, and then get back on.
Okay. And so you have this idea, right? Mm-hmm. And you're doing what for a living? You decide that this is the thing you're going to pursue.
Yeah, well, at the time I was a corporate trainer in what became a Fortune 10 company.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I have, in addition to good ideas and stuff, I have an amazing wife who's very supportive. And so
that's very important if you're an entrepreneur. So
yes,
right.
So when I started looking at this idea and digging into it, and she likes motorcycles too.
Well, that helps too. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
She said, okay, well, let's focus on this. So I became an entrepreneur on my own with custom carpentry and that type of work that I also have skills in.
Yeah.
So that I could freelance that and have the freedom to build this company on the side in my own scheduled time.
Nice.
So for the last 5 years, I've already been an entrepreneur, keeping that side of our life going while this developed and got ready, and the market started to show up.
And that's so smart, because you talk with people who are like, well, if I could just get the money and I could go off and start my thing. Well, how do you side gig it, right? Like, how do you do something that, you're working such that you can take care of that versus really having to always focus on that immediately?
True.
Yeah.
True. And that's something that is different for each entrepreneur, right?
Right.
You might need to keep that corporate job and figure out how to do all of this in the hours of the evening.
Right.
Or you might be able to become a consultant that's able to freelance your way through the skills that you already have until you can develop the idea that you have into a company.
Well, and on the freelancing and consulting side, it's a way to prove out the model too, right? Like you got to,
exactly.
So you're doing Wild Pitch here at Dick South, yes?
Yes, tomorrow at the 11 o'clock session.
Okay, and so this is the second time you've done that, right?
It's the second time for Wild Pitch. I've done a lot of other pitch competitions and practice work and things like that along the way.
So why? Like, why would you participate in something like Wild Pitch? Like, how did you get into that?
Well, exposure is the most important thing when you're trying to create something nobody's heard of.
Right.
So, Dick South is one of the many excellent opportunities, and the fact that it's focused on people that are already tech savvy in some extent helps mean that it's a market for me to at least explore what people think about my idea.
Right.
If not, find somewhere that wants to participate.
Nice. And so yours is interesting because you've got, most of the time we're talking with people who are building like screens.
Mm-hmm.
So like building a screen or doing a technology thing is way simpler than when you start to involve physical items, physical products.
Yes.
So talk to me about either the challenges or the things that you learned around the path of creating something that's not only technology, but it's also physical device.
One challenge is the fact that you do have to build one for everyone you sell.
Yeah.
Whereas a software or a piece of app, once it's created, you can have thousands of users overnight or millions, like we've seen with some applications.
Right.
With something physical, any type of physical product, you've got to take enough time to understand the market and the customer during that development phase, because once you build it and put it out there, you can't say, oh, give me back that, I want to re-weld it and do this different and do that different. It's out there.
Right.
So you need to be ready first. So a lot of customer discovery work, learning about how people use motorcycles in different ways. And part of the other aspect was understanding that everybody has the potential to ride a motorcycle.
Right.
You'd never know if the person 3 cubicles down from you has a motorcycle in the garage or not, because they commute to work in an efficient car and they only ride on the weekends.
Right.
So you never really know who might be interested in a motorcycle.
One of my obvious questions should have been, how did you come up with the name?
So Shandoka is a traditional Native American name for a mountain that's near Telluride, Colorado.
Got it.
Loosely translated, it means the storm gatherer.
Okay.
Which is a little bit of the philosophy behind Shandoka, where we want to be the company, where we want to be able to take different aspects of good technology for electric vehicles and create a platform where those technologies can combine.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter which type of battery you'd like to use in a Shandoka motorcycle.
Yeah.
As long as it makes electricity, you can use it.
Yeah.
So that flexibility is important, and that's where we're able to continue to iterate as battery technology gets better. You can always upgrade that power system.
Nice. And so if you had the opportunity to go back to your previous Ernest self 5 years ago, what might you tell yourself you should have done differently, you should have thought about in a different way?
Honestly, I don't think there's much that I would change, because I've managed to have really great mentors along the way, and things just coalesce, right?
Yeah,
and I haven't ever sat down and said, this is exactly what we're going to do. I always looked at it as an approach of, okay, these are the problems. Do other people have that problem? How many people have that problem? Do they even want it solved?
Right. Yeah.
So all of
Don't
those
solve a problem nobody wants to
those
solve.
had to
Yeah.
happen, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the ideas that I have now weren't part of that initial concept for the company.
Right.
And at one point I thought my big audacious goal was to convert every vehicle on the planet to electric, right? and I'm like, no, wait a minute, come on, that's a little too much. Let's focus.
Right.
Motorcycles, they're a lot more fun.
Nice. So what's next? Beyond the pitch, like where are you headed? What do you need to do next?
Next is improving our manufacturing concept, getting all the equipment together, but then also exploring those other markets around the world where we're already protected, but we need to understand how to enter it the best way. The team has come together really good, and now instead of being that one-person show who's always, I have this hat and this hat and this hat and this hat, I've got people that I trust who are better than me at the things they do.
Yeah.
And they're giving me the advice now. And we're working as a team to really take this to the next level. So it really is a matter of, at this point, funding. You got to build one.
Right.
You got to build 2. You got to build 200. So that's really the next step, is finding the right partner with the right mindset that wants to be part of this business and be flexible enough to say, okay, that idea wasn't quite right, but this idea came out of it, and roll with it.
Very nice. Well, very nice. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. Yeah. So, there you go. So we've been talking with Ernest Eich. He's the founder of Shandoka and here at Dig South. And thanks for listening in.